Welcome to the Sally O'Neill podcast, where I get to be your clinical nutritionist for a quick snippet of time and take you through evidence-based topics and tools that will help you reach your goals faster and more sustainably than ever before. My mission is to empower you with really juicy bits of my nutrition degree and experience in clinical practice, so you can become the scientist of your own body, build a beautiful relationship with food and exercise, and then hopefully fire me because you're utterly self-sufficient with it. Now today, we're diving into a topic that is really close to my heart, and that is navigating the social season when you're in a fat loss phase. Sounds nigh on impossible, let's be honest, but we are going to tackle it today. Now, as we approach the festive season, it's November now I'm recording, but we are getting there. And I know that many of you are probably wondering how on earth you're going to balance your health goals with all the social events and indulgences that come at this time of the year. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm already packing my calendar with boat parties and long lunches. And as I was saying, it's only mid-November as I record this, which means that I've got about 6 weeks worth of celebrations and gatherings to navigate myself. So ideally I want to do it without piling on 5 kilos and then having to undo it all at the beginning of the year, so come January 1st. So today I want to equip you with a really solid and specific plan on how to navigate these situations so that you can attend these events and not feel like you're throwing yourself into a ring of fire, so to speak. I would hate for you or any of my clients to wake up on January 1st and have a ton of work to do just to bring yourself back to baseline. However, I do not suggest this time of year you put too much energy into losing a ton of weight. The goal here for me and my clients really isn't to make massive progress on the scales, but actually at the very least you're maintaining your weight, and then come the new year you can laser focus back in on your goal. So rather than struggle with temptation at every turn and then have a few big blowouts, which is when you inevitably cave, it's really helpful to just try and maintain. So that'd be a huge win for me, and I'm sure it would be for you. Now, I'm sure you can relate. We've all added 3, 4 or even 5 kilos across the holidays, felt sluggish and annoyed when your office clothes are fitting really snug in the new year. So we want to avoid it at all costs, and for me that actually helps by approaching it with a maintenance mindset. Now, I also had a client raise with me this week that she's really anxious about heading into parties and having difficult conversations with people about marriage and weight gain and a few other things that get thrown around at Christmas. So today I'm going to equip you with some options for tackling those really uncomfortable chats as well that might come up with families, friends and colleagues. Having a really good go-to redirection script or some sort of stock responses in your mental bank will help massively. One comment that sometimes can feel like it really throws you off your positive mindset and health and well-being is always the thing about weight. So this year we're going to really anticipate it and tackle it head on. Now remember, this episode will be absolutely useless to you if you don't take any action. So please pull out your notes app or your phone and a pen or paper, whatever you like, and we're going to get ready for some golden nuggets. I want you to walk away with some actual actionable goals, and you're going to write them down. And when you write them down, you're 42% more likely to achieve it than those who don't. So it's really important that you actually pen to paper, please. Before we dive in though into the specifics, I'd love it if you find any value from today's episode to share it with a mate. You'll not only be helping them, but also women just like you who might need to hear this kind of information today. And don't forget to leave a 5-star rating or a thumbs up if you're joining me over on YouTube. Okay, so let's dig in. First off, let's talk about why this balance with an 80-20 approach over the holiday season is really going to be the difference between success and failure. Before finding my balance with an 80-20 approach to dieting, I remember going into the holiday season with a really strong all or nothing mindset. Now, I've been known to take my own containers of food to Christmas lunch, and I've blamed it on complicated dietaries, which honestly was pretty miserable when I saw everyone sat around the table with a plate full of turkey and stuff in. And then other years I'd go completely rogue and eat literally everything in sight because, hey, it's Christmas and we only get to celebrate once a year, and why should I restrict myself? And the whole conversation just snowballs, right? So in those years, I'd average a weight gain of an extra 5 kilos, sometimes even more, which I then spent the rest of the first quarter of the year kind of battling off. So I really thought I had to choose between enjoying myself and sticking to my health goals, which is obviously neither of which work, right? Both approaches left me feeling really guilty and honestly not really enjoying the festivities as much as I should have. So either of those scenarios sound like they resonate with you. Let me offer you something a little different this year, and we're going to try the 80-20 approach. It's really been a game changer for me and my clients in clinic, and it's an approach backed by science that you can apply any of your dietary preferences to. So if you're plant-based versus carnivore and everything in between, it's got you covered. So the reason I love the 80-20 approach so much is it allows for both flexibility and indulgence without derailing your actual progress on your health journey, and it keeps a really healthy relationship with food for you. If you're new around here, the 80-20 approach is a really flexible nutrition strategy that balances nutrient-dense foods with more enjoyable soul foods, and here's kind of how it works. So 80% of your diet consists of whole food, nutrient-dense foods, so obviously fruits, veggies, lean proteins, whole grains. And then the remaining 20% of your energy intake comes from less nutritious foods like desserts, snacks, alcoholic beverages. This approach allows you to have like that sustainable eating habits while still enjoying treats in moderation. It's really useful during social events like Christmas parties. So if you decide this year is going to be different for you and you want to give it a bash, here is what I would suggest. You want to fill 80% of your plate with healthier options. So it might be like roast turkey or a lean protein of choice. Seemingly in Australia here, everybody seems to get stuck into the prawns, which are my personal favorite. And then you might fill half your plate then with veggies, sides, and salads. Your fats are going to be covered by whatever your protein is cooked in normally. So you don't need to feel like you're adding on extra avocado or nuts or dressing at this point. You've probably got it covered in the way that the protein was cooked. Then you use the remaining 20% of your energy intake for treats throughout the day. So you might find it easier to plan out your 20% treats for those days, particularly if you've got a social event to make it easier to stick to. So for example, you might do a lighter breakfast and then add in a glass of wine with dinner and maybe a small serving of Christmas pudding afterwards. And this way you can really enjoy the festivities without feeling deprived or overindulging. Now remember, the goal is always balance, it's not perfection. So if you do have an overeat, the best approach is to just move right along into the next meal rather than throw in the towel and start spiraling for a few days, which I know you've done before. Now let's talk about some really specific practical 80-20 strategies for navigating these specific social events around Christmas. One of the things that's worked wonders for me is eating a really small protein-rich snack before heading out. Now remember the last office party where you arrived hungry and you ended up overeating all the sugary treats? This year I want you to try to aim to have a quick protein shake or some Greek yogurt with some berries before you go rather than arriving hungry. And it's really going to help you make better choices because you're not grabbing everything and anything you can fill up on. And you're really also going to enjoy the special occasion and the holiday foods in moderation. Another really helpful tip is to approach buffets strategically, having a game plan for the buffet. So instead of grazing continuously, which really leads up to lots of mindless overeating, you can grab a small plate and enjoy one round of food before deciding if you want to go back for more. Now, you'll be a lot more mindful of your portions and it'll help you track exactly how much you're eating if you stick to smaller plates, and you'll be able to feel in control around the variety of food that's offered up. It's also really smart to opt for a side plate, as I said, rather than a dinner plate. So it's a really simple trick just to help you reduce your portion sizes without feeling restricted. And it's psychologically satisfying for some reason for humans to have a really full plate, but you're also going to be able to control the energy intake that you're putting on there. So to recap, you want a small protein snack before you go. You're going to sit down to eat rather than just graze over the top of the buffet, and you're going to choose a smaller plate. Now, if you're someone who likes to drink over the holidays, let's talk about having a solid alcohol plan. If you don't drink, you can skip right along to the next section. So I used to struggle with this, often drinking more than I ever intended at parties, and now I go and set a drinks limit before I go and alternate between alcoholic beverages and water. So for example, at my best friend's wedding last year, this strategy really helped me celebrate fully while still kind of enjoying the day and having a drink with my friends. It's a really useful way to practice this strategy in all social situations, honestly, not just in the festive season. So if you've got something in the run-up that you want to practice it at, feel free, or you can practice at home. Now, I'm going to give you 3 tips to build a specific alcohol action plan for your celebration. So number 1 is to alternate, you've heard this before, but alternate between alcoholic drinks with water. So this is just your reminder to stay hydrated because it slows down alcohol consumption. Try to have a full glass of water in between each alcoholic beverage, because not only does it overall reduce the amount of alcohol that you're going to drink, it helps prevent dehydration, which is going to contribute to those really horrendous hangovers where you say, oh my God, I'm never touching alcohol ever again. So you got it, drink water. Number 2, opt for the lower alcohol options. You can choose the half-strength drinks or the alcohol-removed wine or the low-sugar mocktails to reduce the overall alcoholic load of the body. Many bars and restaurants have now got lots of creative, flavorful mocktails, and they can be just as enjoyable as the alcoholic version. If you prefer wine, look for the spritzers or the lower alcohol varieties. Tip number 3 would be to set a drinks limit, as I mentioned. So decide on a specific number of drinks that you want to have that night and stick to it so that you can prevent yourself from overindulging. Now, you can consider a tracking app or simply just taking a mental note. You might want to let a trusted friend know what your limit is so that they can support you if needed. So basically just knock a drink out your hand if they need to. Tip number 4 would be to choose your drinks really wisely. So choose stuff that you can sip slowly over time. It might mean picking a nice craft beer or a quality wine instead instead of a sugary cocktail. I know I would need to do that. The goal is to really savor the drink rather than smash it quickly, and I cannot do that with a sweet cocktail. I can't drink it slowly. So all power to you if you've already mastered that. Now you can enjoy a social event with managing your alcohol consumption effectively and your portion control. We've got a mini episode coming this week on how to minimize the effects of a hangover, which includes a supplement protocol. So make sure you subscribe to get notified of that one. I think it's going to be one that you're going to want to save for future reference. Now, what about dealing with those inappropriate questions or disapproval from family and friends? Because let's be honest, we've all been subjected to it. I've had my fair share of really uncomfortable moments too. The amount of times my mum has asked me when I'm going to settle down is absolutely unruly, if I'm honest. We have to remember that it usually comes from a good place, so we have to approach it with empathy. But I have learned, however, that having some prepared responses can be an absolute lifesaver for me and my mental health. So I'm going to give you some quick examples about how to handle these most used redirection statements to handle uncomfortable situations with grace. Now, I want you to write down the ones that sound really relevant to you and keep them in your phone so you've got a plan for when these things crop up. The best thing you can do is always you just excuse yourself to the bathroom and check your phone if you forget. It's a really good way of handling it. So when you get faced with something uncomfortable, like a comment about your weight or a choice of clothing that you've made, you can approach it really pleasantly and work around it, keeping your mental health protected, let's say that. Now, first up, you might consider setting some really clear boundaries. So, for example, I really appreciate your concern, but I'm really not comfortable discussing this. So you're keeping it really clear and concise, and it works in every situation. Now, if someone mentions the food on your plate, should you be eating that? A really good response is, I'm enjoying everything in moderation. Have you tried the roast turkey? It's so delicious. This redirects them back to the food itself rather than your eating choices and your habits. For anything about weight, which I really hope isn't going to happen, it gives me so much ick. But you can have some stock redirection responses. So you can say, I'm happy and healthy and that's what matters to me, but I really appreciate your loving concern. Or you might choose to redirect the conversation entirely away from food and weight. For example, let's talk about something more positive. How's your new job going? So remember that people absolutely love talking about themselves, and it gives them an opportunity, if you want to give them an opportunity so that they can take it. Finally, trying to express your feelings with an I statement is super helpful. I also use this in arguments with partners, honestly. But you can say, I feel uncomfortable when you talk about my weight. I really appreciate if we could change the subject. Because then, of course, they can't argue with your emotions and how you feel at the time, and it stops them in their tracks. So some bonus redirection statements to note down, ready for the festive season, could be, look, I'm really focusing on enjoying the moment rather than discussing personal matters. That's a great one. It kind of stops everything in the water. Or let's talk about something more festive. What's going on your Christmas list this year? Or I'd rather hear about your recent adventures. Have you got anything exciting planned for the new year? Again, opening the door for them to talk about themselves. And something like, I prefer to keep that private for now. Tell me, how's your new hobby going? So remember, you absolutely have the right to enjoy gatherings without feeling pressured or judged, and you're allowed to be assertive when you need to be to protect your own peace and your mental well-being. If you need to, you can always just remove yourself, go and grab a glass of water and return back to somebody else for conversation. Now remember, true friends and supportive family members are always going to respect your choices and your boundaries. Okay, I feel like we have covered off a lot today in this episode about navigating the holidays with the 80-20 approach, the alcohol plan, and managing awkward conversations. I hope you took some notes down and you're going to start implementing them over the holidays. So to recap, you're going to enjoy a balanced plate with lean protein and veggies and salad. You're also going to eat a small protein snack before you head out to food gatherings. You've got some redirection statements planned out for any awkward conversations. And you're probably going to let your mates know what your alcohol plan is at your next event. So it goes without saying that sleep and movement over the holidays are super crucial as well. So make sure you're mindful of those. Okay, you made it. That's all for today's ep. If you found this helpful and it's going to help you navigate the silly season with confidence, I would absolutely love it if you could spare 60 seconds to leave a review, leave a comment, or even subscribe for future episodes. I will see you for the mini action plan episode later this week, all about hangovers. As ever, thanks for tuning in and for your interest in nutritional science. Please go and enjoy the holidays responsibly, and remember that small, consistent changes over time lead to improvements in your health. Until next time, stay focused on becoming the scientist of your own body.